and part-time belong to ed tech services to do some iPad training. So let's figure out where you guys are at with your iPads. Who's comfortable with it?
It's almost like we need two groups.
So everyone can play Angry Birds, right?
No.
Everybody what? Everybody what?
Can play Angry Birds? Figure out how to play Angry Birds?
Yeah, I'm angry when
I can.
All right, let's talk about that real quick. Can we put Angry Birds on these iPads?
I thought no.
Not if we want our kids to play it.
All right, yeah. If this is a teacher iPad, meaning this is like your iPad, you don't really give it to a lot of people, and it's not community property, go ahead, put Angry Birds on there. We don't care. Right? Just don't be playing it when you're supposed to be teaching. Right? Hopefully that should be self-explanatory. But it's a great way to actually learn. All right, some of the games on these things, it's a great way to learn how to use it. All right, you learn different ways of how to utilize the iPad just by playing the games on it. So the 3 games you don't put on there, sure, go ahead. Tell me when you're supposed to be teaching. Okay. All right, got that out of the way. So, if I'm assuming correct, you guys, these iPads haven't really been issued to you, correct? Or have they been issued?
They're issued as under student. They've been configured as a student,
Okay,
not
so
as
we got
a
them, yeah, okay.
yeah, not
So,
as.
how are you guys using them right now? Let's just really quick. Who's found a really cool thing they like? All right, what do you got?
My kids will hang them with their words, their way words. Once a week, that's one of their jobs.
Okay. So again, we're utilizing a game basically, but it's actually a great way to learn. I see you got pop words on there too. Pop words is boggle. Basically, pop words is boggle. That's a great way for kids to work on their words. And it's fun for them at the same time.
The 6th graders are liking earning the time.
All right. So how are you utilizing it? Are you like building it right into your course of your lesson objectives, or are you using it kind of like to recapture some time at the end of the lesson, or something along those lines?
Ours is almost like a center.
Okay.
Well, in mine, it's a center for their focus being to learn the patterns, spelling patterns of the words they're trying.
Okay. All right. So, got a little idea of where you guys are sitting. So basically what we're going to be looking at here is we got to look at a few different things. Number one is the boring stuff. All right. This is an electronic device, same thing as a computer, so we have to follow the same policies that Jeffco has in place for us, namely the 3 that I have up there. All right. Staff use of internet and electronic communication, computer security, and student use of the internet. Okay. We have to make sure we're still abiding by these policies and procedures that are put in place for protection of everybody. Okay. If you want to look at those, you can go find those on the board docs under the Jeffco Connections page and probably know how to find some of that stuff. Now, you guys probably all have iPad 2s. Anybody think you have anything different?
We all have the same one.
They're all iPad 2s then probably. No one's been buying iPad 4s until this past week. So, since we know about what you have, let's talk about the iOS. iOS is your operating system. Okay, it's like Windows. Windows is your operating system on your computers in your classroom. This is called iOS, all right, or I operating system. Every year, Apple releases an update, all right? So every year, pretty regularly, you're going to get a new refresh on it, okay? Right now, we're operating on iOS 6.0, actually 6.1.3, and those 1.3s there after that 6, those are just these minor releases that come throughout the year. They release these minor updates to the operating system for several reasons. One, they want to push out a new feature, okay? The big update, so from 5.0 to 6.0, that's like a big feature update. You know, we got Apple Maps, which don't work at all. We got, this, we got another thing, all right? But these little incremental updates, those basically are there to do a really quick type update, or even more importantly, they're actually there to address a security flaw that's been found in the software, all right? As more and more people use iPads now, they're turning into...
Damn.
Everyone knows how long that is, right?
Quit pushing it, Kim.
Is she normally that red?
Gosh, Kim. I know, it's just.
Someone take our heart rate real quick.
Nobody knows what that game is, do you?
So,
That's what I get from messing
as
around.
more and more people use iPads, it's turning into more and more of a target for hackers. Okay, so people are finding exploits in the operating system and in different pieces of it to come in and try and steal information. So as soon as Apple finds somebody has done an exploit, they're going to find the patch for it and issue an update. All right. So You're going to see that as in your settings, all right, the little gray gear icon on your iPad. All right, when they come out with an update, you'll see a little 1 pop up in the right-hand corner of that icon. All right, it'll be a little red badge. So like you've actually got probably an update right there. Okay, that means you actually have an update that is ready to be installed on your iPad. Don't update now, all right, because it'll suck our Wi-Fi and you'll be out of service for a little bit. Okay.
But whenever one comes up there, at a convenient time,
You should update it, yeah. Absolutely.
hence the reason it's in red.
Yeah. So that is something you can do by yourself. When you guys hook using Configurator later this week, you're gonna
Thursday.
These are all gonna kind of be redone on Thursday, but this will be something you can do on your own. You don't have to bring it to anybody to actually do this. Just go in there, follow the little thing that says update, software update, and click update now. The little incremental updates, like this one is for you guys, they'll take 10 minutes at the most. It's very, very quick to actually get that done. The larger updates to go from 5.0 to 6.0, and in a few months here, 6.0 to 7.0, those take probably about 30 to 40 minutes to download and update. So you definitely don't want to do that at the beginning of the day. Okay? So, questions about operating system, and how it kind of works, anything at all? All right, so resources. Where do you guys go for information and help on this? How to use this?
I've got Rhonda with all of my questions.
So we're going to give you some other tips here to use. On the Employee Connections webpage, you can go to Tech Tips. And Tech Tips is the network support or services, their website, and they've got some good information on there. A great source of just every type of information you might possibly want. How many people are using Schoology right now? Okay, if you're not using Schoology, this is a great way to get you used to using Schoology. We have a Schoology support page specifically for the iPad and Jeffco. Okay. The only reason I'm pretty much up here teaching this to you guys is I just use the iPad all the time, and when I break it, I figure out why I broke it and fix it myself. And you really, really learn. It's hard to break it. It's very hard to break. But if you do stuff enough with it, you can break it. If you learn how to use it really well and learn how to fix the problems yourself, you're going to get really, really well. You're going to figure out how to use it really well. All right. And we'll talk about one of the little tricks where people always freak out about it. And I'll show you a good example of it. But here, if you want to write that code down, if you guys can read that code, that is the Jeffco group, so community support group for using the iPad. We have about close to 600 people on there right now, and all of them are using iPads. Okay. The cool thing about this is, when we started it at the beginning of the year, as myself, Rose Foster, and a handful of other people that were kind of answering questions and kind of doing things, but now we barely have to touch it. It's basically grown into the thing where it's supporting itself. Teachers are helping other teachers answer these questions. You don't need us, the people out here doing this, telling you guys how to do this stuff on a daily basis. You have a quick question, throw it up there. Another teacher's going to answer it for you, I promise. Okay? And if no one answers the question, one of us will be monitoring it, and we'll jump in and help if we need. But we really want you guys helping each other out with this. So it's a great way for you guys to actually learn it. Taking the old medical school teaching practice of see one, do one, teach one. All right? If that doesn't help you, you really can't get much there, your next place to go for some help is Apple's Support Community. All right? You type in a question in Google, why is my iPad doing this? The first hits that are probably going to come up in the Google search results are Apple's support pages. All right? Great place of information to go and figure out why your iPad is doing what it's doing. This course itself, this intro course, we're actually taking, and it's already been turned into a Schoology course. All right, they'll be getting pushed out live here in hopefully a few weeks. So you can go back to that and reference that as well to help you out. I'm going to skip over YouTube because I can't find anything good. Probably the biggest one is students. Go to your students. This is native to them. Right? You stick an iPad in their hand and they're just, they're hacking into, national defense. All right, they can figure this thing out extremely well. They are very good at this. This is native to them. All right, let your students show you up every once in a while. They love it anyway. So if you have a question about something and Johnny knows how to answer it, hey, let him answer it. Let him help you. All right, so your cases. Let me just see. Make sure. Okay. So your cases, when we start talking about maintenance, the good thing about the iPad, what do you notice initially? What's missing?
Keyboard.
Keyboard. What else? No mouse. No USB. But the keyboard and the mouse thing, those are actually kind of good that they're not there. That's less stuff to break. Right? You know, when I pull our laptops out of our laptop carts at my school, the little eraser head, mouse is missing, the keys are all missing, they look like they've, gone through a nuclear war, they're just destroyed. These things, there's not a lot to break on them, all right? They're pretty robust. All right, but you do have to take care of them a little bit. The biggest thing, wipe them down every once in a while, okay? Best thing to use is a cloth. If you wear glasses, your little microfiber cloth. Just take that, wipe it down. Okay. If you don't like fingerprints, hopefully you've gotten over that by now. All right, you're not one of those people that are wiping it down every time you use it because you'll drive yourself crazy, I promise you. Okay, I know I was like that for the first week or so, and then I'm like, heck, who cares? All right. Take it out of your case every once in a while. Okay, because dirt will accumulate down in the cracks, and it can get into the ports and stuff like that. So clean it every once in a while. All right. Screen protectors. If you want to use screen protectors, you can. In all honesty, I've never used one, and I've had an iPhone since the first iPhone, and never had a cracked screen, never had an issue, never had. If you just take care of it, it's going to be perfectly fine. The glass, it actually is glass, so it's pretty tough. Okay. Pretty tough to actually break. The easiest way to break it is if you drop it on its side. Okay? If you drop it flat on its back, it'll probably be perfectly fine, especially on carpeted floor. Okay? I just don't go and do that, but it should be okay. All right, let's talk a little bit about this thing itself. We already talked about what it's missing, but what does it have on it? So the first thing I want to kind of hit here is top and bottom. So as I'm talking about this, it's funny, I developed this class last summer, built it up, I practiced it, I did everything. I'm like, all right, I got it down. I know where my trouble spots are going to be. I know where people are going to ask questions. And I go and teach the very first class, the very first day of school. And I'm like, all right, so on the bottom of the device, and a hand goes up. They're like, what's the bottom? I'm like, oh, crap. So I'm like 14 seconds into it and didn't even anticipate where's the bottom. All right? So yours with the case, it makes it a little bit easier. Where that cutout is, where the home button is, if we're holding it in portrait mode, all right, the bottom is the home button. Where the dock connector is, that's the bottom of the device. All right. The iPad is one of the few tablet devices out there that's actually designed to go into portrait mode most often. It kind of was built this way. When you look at a lot of Android devices and the tablet, the Microsoft Surface, everything's kind of arranged so it's being held in landscape mode. Okay, so we're going to talk about it in portrait mode here. So the bottom is the home button. All right. So the home button, what does it do? Well, it can take you home. We push the button once, and we go home. Okay. What happens if we push it twice? Okay, so if we push it twice, I should probably unlock this so it doesn't. So if I push it twice,
Brings all the apps up.
it brings up what's called your multitasking bar. Yeah, they work. What? Things that are open. All right. So when you look at this, yeah, you can see I've got quite a few things open here. All right. That's your multitasking bar. Now, to close an app, all right, we want to actually tap and hold, and you're going to get them to start shaking a little bit. And you're going to get a little red minus. If you tap on that red minus, it'll actually close that app out. You're not losing any information or anything. You're just closing the app. Okay? Now, in the multitasking bar, if I swipe to the right, I'm going to get my media bar, my media player. Once you guys start using AirPlay, which can connect it to your computer to do what I'm doing right now. You're going to see this button here, and all of you will see that button now. Please don't press it because it will crash the Wi-Fi. That will allow you to connect to a computer that has air server or an AirPlay service connected to it. Okay? You don't have any open end? Oh, swipe to the right. Hit your home button. Okay, now double tap. Really quick. Swipe to the right down there. Okay. So, that's what your home button can do. So on the top of your screen, on the top of the front, you have a little camera up here. All right? That camera is basically used for like FaceTime or iMessages, Skype, anything where you're doing like a video chat or video conference. That way you can sit there and look at your device and people can see you and you can do a video call. Okay? So, let's go to... Go ahead.
Can we Skype our substitute?
Sure. So on the right-hand side of the iPad, you're going to have 3 buttons and switches. The rocker buttons are your volume control, volume up, volume down. The side switch, all right, there's a little switch there on the side that, go ahead and flick it down or up, whichever way it's not right now.
Made a bell.
So it made a bell? Anybody do anything different?
No.
Bell with flash? Okay. So look at mine. When I slide mine down, I don't see that bell. Okay? What mine is set up to do, and you can change this if you want, what mine is set up to do is now it locks the rotation. Alright? So when I rotate it, the screen won't rotate. Which, if you start doing this, and you have students out there, and you start, kind of walking around and doing this, and you see your kids starting to do the bobblehead, that should tell you that you haven't locked your screen, and you should probably lock it because it's going to start annoying them in a second. All right? And we'll talk about how you can switch that here in a second. Okay? Now, that volume button, all right, pretty simple. Volume up, volume down. If you press and hold the down volume for about a second, it will mute your iPad.
Oh, the same way the other, well, the bell one then was for sound.
The bell will mute your iPad as well. All right? So when we start talking about what you want that side switch to do, that's why I keep mine on lock rotation, because it seems kind of useless to have two things do the exact same thing an inch away from each other. It just seems like kind of a waste. Now, the trick to this is, when we get to our multitasking, now if I go back to multitasking here, over on this side, on the multitasking bar and the media bar, that button right there will do the opposite, right here. That button will do the opposite of what your side switch does. So I've got mine to lock rotation.
So mine has the rotation thing on it, but mine was the bell. Okay.
Exactly. So either way you can do that, and the reason they put it there is to use AirPlay. That's where you're going to want to lock your rotation. Okay? And then swipe to the right.
So that one makes yours turn.
So that's where we can do that. All right?
Because he made his toggle switch on the side, he made that one the bell. So that way when he does this, his option is speaker, since ours does the bell when we hit the side, this way's our rotate.
Yep. All right, so on the top of the iPad, you've got 3 different things up here. One side, you've got a 3.5mm audio headphone jack. So any normal audio headphone will plug in here and work just fine. Right smack in the middle, you got a tiny little hole there. That's the microphone. All right. On the other side, you've got a button. That button is called the sleep-wake button. All right. We don't call it an on-off button because this thing never really turns off. All right. We don't want it to turn off. When we turn it on, we want to get to the internet, we want to get to our mail, we want to get to Angry Birds right now. All right, so we don't want to wait for it to boot up. Okay? So we basically only put it to sleep and we wake it up. That's all we ever do. Okay? On the back is your good camera. All right, I think it's like 2 megapixels on the iPad 2. Not the greatest thing in the world, but this right here is one of the most powerful tools you guys can use as teachers and let your students use. all right? It'll record video, take pictures, put this in your kids' hands and let them document what they're doing. You're going to see some pretty awesome stuff start popping up. You can record this, capture it. Now you're creating some portfolio-based type work for your students, which really shows some fun type stuff. Okay?
Can you show me again, where is it that you lock it to keep it from rotating?
Oh, so for you, it's going to be, so go ahead and double tap your home button. So swipe to the right down on the bottom there. Just down at the bottom. Bring it up again. Probably 4 fingers.
Your big
No
video
4 on
right
there.
now.
There you go. Now swipe to the right. So that button right there will lock the rotation. So the camera, very, very good tool. All right. Lastly, what we have on the bottom, we have your 30-pin dot connector. All right, plug it in the charge. And your speaker over on the right-hand side on the bottom. Okay? Questions about the hardware?